Up until Big Brother 20, Part 3 of the Final HOH was basically a guessing game. You have choice A, you have choice B, but it's not the type of quiz that you can study for. You're trying to guess how the jurors would answer some random question. Obviously, the first thought is, oh, whoever took the time to get to know the jurors the best would most likely win. And while that is a pretty reasonable conclusion to get to, that doesn't seem to be the case all the time, because when these questions are asked, both answers are highly plausible. It's like taking an exam in high school and there's multiple correct answers, but you have to pick the one that's more correct. Like, come on, it's hard. So it got me thinking. Since it's kind of common in the Big Brother community to write off Part 3 of the Final HOH as a total crapshoot, let's put it to the test. How often would you win the Final HOH by just answering A? No thinking about the question, no caring about what each potential answer is. There literally won't be an easier competition in your life to participate in because you're just answering A every single time. If the HOH truly was so random, let's run some tests and use some math to find out if Part 3 really was random or if knowing the jurors really did give you a definitive edge in winning the competition. Now, here's the way that we're going to do it, and sit down because it's about to get a little complicated. We're envisioning that for all of these Part 3s, we are adding in an additional player. So instead of 2 people fighting for the Final HOH, there's now 3. The original 2 players and a third new entity. This entity can be literally anything you want. A real person, a mannequin, a traffic cone, whatever. It doesn't really matter what our third player is because they aren't even listening to the questions. They're just answering A every single time. So for the sake of consistency, I will be referring to our third player as our traffic cone. Now, what we're going to do today is to see how often this third entity, this traffic cone that doesn't know the first thing about Big Brother, will win the Final HOH. And to make sure that we're covering all of our bases, we're also going to be running through the exact same simulation, but with our traffic cone only answering B for every question. But I'll get to that at the end. So, what are you thinking? Do you think it would be optimal to just throw any strategy out the window and just answer the same answer every single time? Or do you think that this strategy is beyond stupid and would never win? I already know the answer, but I'm interested in what your initial thoughts are, so please share your predictions in the comments. So, to begin with the results, I've got some things I want to share and clarify. First off, Big Brother 2, Big Brother 20, Big Brother 21, Big Brother 22, and Big Brother 23 all had the Part 3 questions be knowledgeable, meaning it wasn't a guess on how the jurors felt and was instead based off of facts from the game. So our traffic cone didn't participate in those ones. Similarly, Big Brother 3 had 3 options for each question, giving us much worse odds that I thought wouldn't be fair, so I didn't include them either. And lastly, Big Brother 4 had unique answers for both June and Allison, so it wouldn't really make sense for our third player to be in that one, as they too would need unique answers to fit the format. So with all of that, this means that we have 15 Part 3s to go through. Big Brother 5 all the way through Big Brother 19. And now, after going through all of them, here are some standouts. There were times where our traffic cone simply could not win the Final HOH. 4 out of the 15 Part 3s were flat out unwinnable, as Drew, Boogie, Hayden, and Lane, and Ian answered more questions correctly than there were A's or B's. By that I mean, for example, Boogie answered 5 out of 6 questions correctly. A was the answer twice, and B was the answer 4 times, meaning that no matter what our traffic cone answered, they would lose to Boogie. This happened in Big Brother 5, 7, 12, and 14. Just a little fun extra fact, Ian in Big Brother 14 answered every Part 3 question correctly, the only person to ever do so in the random era, which obviously left our traffic cone destroyed. On the other hand, our traffic cone would have won the Final HOH in Big Brother 6 regardless of what they answered, as Janelle and Yvette both only went 2 for 6 on the questions, and the answer was A 3 times and B 3 times. So no matter if our cone went with A or B, they would have won. But I won't tease you any longer. I know you want to hear some numbers, so I'll lay out the plan of action. Over the 15 Part 3s, there have been, obviously, 30 players. So we're going to see how many times our traffic cone beat a player, tied a player, and lost to a player. For the traffic cone and the reality that they're always answering A, they beat 10 of the players, they lost to 9 of the players, and they tied 11 of the players. Now, those numbers sound really good for just being random. But it's important to keep in mind that it's likely that most of these players they're beating are the players that did badly and lost the Final HOH. So, while it's cool to look at those numbers, they don't actually tell us as much as I would want. So, I think the best way to really determine this is to run a new test. how many times would our traffic cone have just flat out won the Final HOH? Like, they beat both players competing in Part 3. Well, with a sample size of 15 and with 3 players playing in this Part 3 now, if the Final HOH were to truly be random, our traffic cone would be expected to win 5 out of the 15 Final HOHs. So, after running through the numbers, calculating all of the data, I have come to an answer. Our traffic cone, by only answering A for each question, would have won a grand total of 2 Final HOHs. Oh, that's kinda not what I was expecting. You see, with all of those wins we saw earlier, I thought for sure we were onto something here, but I guess not. Our traffic cone would have won in Big Brother 6 and in Big Brother 9, but that's it. So I guess that proves it. Part 3 of the Final HOH is not, in fact... Whoa, wait a second. Come on. You didn't think I was finished here, did you? While yes, it is true that our traffic cone does only flat out win in 2 scenarios, there's another outcome we need to cover, because our traffic cone also ended up tied with the highest score in 6 other seasons. So we need to take those ties into account. If we say that all players have an equal chance of winning the tiebreaker, then it is expected that our traffic cone would actually go on to win some of those Part 3s as well. So we need to factor in the amount of times that we are expected to win these tiebreakers and add that to our cone's wins to come up with our adjusted win total. So in the 6 tiebreaker scenarios, we have a 50% chance of winning 5 of them and a 33% chance of winning 1 of them, because Big Brother 11 would have had our traffic cone tied with both Jordan and Kevin, meaning that our traffic cone would need to compete against both of them in the tiebreaker. So after doing the math, our adjusted win total comes out to be 4.83 wins. That is very close to 5 wins out of 15. So close, in fact, that it's pretty much insignificant. And to go a step further and prove it even more, I mentioned earlier that I ran the exact same test with our traffic cone, only answering B for all of the HOHs. And when looking at the adjusted win total for answering B, it comes out to exactly 5 wins out of the 15 Part 3s, which is the exact amount to be expected if the Final HOH were truly random. So, if you got a little confused along the way there, let me sum it all up nicely. Based on the actual math and the performances of the real players in Part 3 of the Final Head of Household, you can pretty confidently say that it is indeed a real crapshoot. You can study all you want for it, but based on the results that we have seen, you are just as likely to win the Final HOH by studying as you are to lose to someone who just answers A the entire time. While yes, having a sample size on the smaller side of things is definitely not legitimate proof, the fact that our traffic cone will win the Final HOH just as much as any of the real players inside of the house who actively try and prepare for this competition should show you that Part 3 really was as random as you could get. Thank you for watching. I love looking at these numbers, so it was a real treat to go through and calculate all of the math for it. For those that are super curious, based on the results during this random era, you are better off answering B every time over A, as B had been the answer 49 times, while A was only the answer 47 times. But that's pretty insignificant. You know what isn't insignificant though? My YouTube members who continue to support me through all of these off-season months. Y'all help me out so much, and I hope to continue giving you content that you deem acceptable enough to keep you supporting me. And, as always, here's a clip for you on your way out.
And the answer is Mike, also known as Boogie, which means congratulations, Nicole.
Great, I feel great about that.
Nicole, you alone will evict either Will or Monica in just a few minutes. You realize this is just a few minutes. Allison, all right, I'm gonna go to June first. June, Allison, I need an answer though. We're committing to that. All right, I'm committing you to the no.
Okay.
Let's see what Justin said.
No.
Hola everyone! This summer was insane. I was the first house guest to have the power of veto used on them, which was cool.
The false statement is A. Actually, Cliff was the first house guest to have the power veto used on them, and we have a winner. Congratulations to you, Mickey. You are the final head of household. James said, quote, I think what will happen between me and Chelsea is A, Chelsea and I will bike around the world together, HOH glass house competition, or B, I never told a lie in the Big Brother house.
The moment in the house that irritated me the most was when Jerry took his dentures out and brushed them in the sink.
The correct answer is A.